Welcome to No Code Data and AI. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as turn on the notification bell so that you can get notified every time we post a video or go live. The co-organizers for this event are Rahul and myself. Today, we will be continuing the IntelCraft weekly series, creating intelligence in platforms. We are on the hunt for open source enterprise-ready LLM tools from application frameworks, infrastructure tooling for fine-tuning and managing vector databases. We've shortlisted more than a dozen ChatGPT clones that are 100% open source, and we're here to talk about why you should consider using them. We'll review some recent updates on libraries for prompt engineering and fine-tuning that have been released. If you are interested in being a co-organizer or want to help get speakers or sponsors by reaching out to people in the generative AI and no-code communities around the world, drop me an email. It was listed on the previous page and is also, you can also reach me here. If there is anyone new that would like to say hi, what brought you here, or what you hope to get out of this, please post something in the YouTube chat. And don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can get notified every time we post a video or go live. A few group rules. If you have a question, please ask it. I will be referring to the YouTube chat, and if something is critical, Rahul has said it's okay if I ask him to pause and ask the question there, so please post your questions. Of course, be polite and courteous to others, and this is a community, so please share what you know. Here at Anant, we design, build, and manage global real-time data and analytics platforms surrounding Cassandra, Spark, and Kafka. We've stepped firmly into the generative AI LLM space to deliver RAG chatbots, agents, prompt engineering, and fine-tuned LLMs for a variety of enterprise use cases. And lastly, if anybody has any job offers, you're looking for a job, drop links in the YouTube chat. If anybody has any meetups, hackathons, classes, or conferences that you would like to promote, please drop links to those as well. And with that, I will pass to Rahul. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Nick. Appreciate you co-organizing and helping host this. Yeah, welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you had a good Valentine's Day by the time you see this. I did manage to get a Valentine's Day card, and I have yet to go and get the flowers, but that is top of mind today for me. So if this is a reminder that gets you there, I'm glad. Today I'm going to be talking about one of the categories of the toolkit that I'm collecting together. I'll also give you an update on the toolkit. I've added a few things to chatbots, libraries, fine-tuning, etc. And what I want to do is to actually talk through what are the major components of an enterprise ChatGPT clone if you wanted to make something for your team. Is it as easy as, cloning from GitHub one of these projects and bringing it up, or is there more involved? I think you'll, by the end of the call, by the end of the session today, I think you're going to have a better understanding of what you may want or not want in a chatbot. Or maybe you'll be happy with just using ChatGPT, and that's completely fine. It's completely a great solution. Let's see. Share the screen here. Okay. Coming up okay?
That's coming through great.
Okay. All right. So why would you ever need open source ChatGPT clones? My answer to that is because there's so many different reasons that different businesses, different individuals. Some would say security, privacy. Some would say freedom. Some would say functionality. There's just a bunch of reasons why you want to look into open source ChatGPT clones. And there are many ChatGPT clones that are software as a service providers that are offering tools that are slightly better than what ChatGPT is already trying to give you in their team offering. But at the end of the day, still, why would you ever need an open source ChatGPT clones? There's a million reasons. Before ChatGPT, the GPT-3 API, they were pretty good, but they couldn't carry conversation. This is like pre-December of 2022. GPT-3 API was really good. And if you knew how to program it, you could make a ChatGPT clone, but ChatGPT wasn't even there. But when ChatGPT came out, it gave people like the lowest common denominator in terms of an interface. It still is the lowest common denominator, lowest common interface for AI. Others would say, a Copilot like interface, like in GitHub Copilot, or like how Bing Copilot is now inside Bing. That's maybe going to be supplanting chatbots, but I think most people are used to it. As they say, don't reinvent the wheel. And I'm not against innovation, but like most people are happy with a chatbot, unless you give them something above and beyond in terms of usability and functionality. I think that maybe one day we won't really even need chatbots, because we're just going to be able to talk to the AI with voice, and it'll be good enough for us that we are satisfied with that conversation, the speed of the conversation, the tonality of the conversation, that it may supplant a chatbot. Why are chatbots great? Well, we'll get into that later when we talk about what people are used to. Shout out to our customers that basically sponsor us to be able to learn stuff and teach it to you guys. And we have a bootcamp survey out there to see what you guys want to learn. I'm organizing the next iteration of the bootcamp that I did in 2023. And it will be slightly different. Going to focus on the IntelCraft stack, which I'll again preview another update today. Combination of open source and SaaS tools for the enterprise. And instead of building something from the ground up, we're going to just use open source apps to talk to your data. If you want to learn how to do that, there's a billion videos on YouTube that can go deeper. It's like, if you just want to use your computer to play games, do you really care about how the CPU is made? Probably not. Today, again, talk a little bit about ChatGPT versus open source. We're going to break down a ChatGPT clone, a few of them. We're going to take a look at two of them close up, and then what are the players out there right now. And then next week, I'm going to cover prompt injection, or how to have LLM security. But I'm just going to talk a little about thinking about that security in a ChatGPT clone. Especially since if you're going to be hosting your own application, your own ChatGPT, something that like ChatGPT on OpenAI, there's billions of dollars, trillions of dollars, I don't know, that are going into that R&D. Maybe they have the team to deal with security. What do you need to do to make sure your application is up to par as well? I'll just hint at the things that we need to think about, but next week we'll do a deep dive into LLM security and why it's important in the enterprise to have better management of these type of applications. I'm going to keep showing this picture because I don't know at which point in your journey you are, but I want you to know that before LLM engineering, machine learning was hard. It was hard. You have to know a lot of different disciplines. You have to have a decent data engineering, data ops background to operationalize your data science knowledge. If you were a data scientist, you could rely on other data engineers, but you still needed to have ML engineer, ML ops to then take that model and operationalize it. And then finally, the apps themselves, the software engineering, those engineers would also need to kind of understand how to use these models. Now with generative AI, specifically, I'm talking about text right now, but even in other realms, making an intelligent platform it's a lot easier. And what we're doing with this series is to show you how to do different parts of this process without actually doing it, like using an open source solution and starting with it, or by the time I'm finished with open source, I'll have started the SaaS software as a service, platform as a service, aspect of the IntelCraft toolkit as well. How to do these different parts of your full application, your full intelligence platform, without actually reinventing the wheel. Just mantras that I'm also going to repeat. Don't reinvent the wheel when making a intelligent platform. Meet the user, the platforms that you have already, and the AI where they're at. Your job is to bring them together. The users have certain needs and certain ones and things that they're used to. The platforms have certain abilities and APIs. Some of them are good at what they do. Do you need to really replace it with an AI system if the platform that you have for, let's say, HR management does its job pretty well? Yeah, you probably don't need to replace it. You probably need to just wrap it with an AI wrapper. And then, of course, the AI has different capabilities. It had different capabilities last year, the year before. It will continue to get better, but there are different types of AI. There's models for audio, there's models for video, there's text, there's models for coding. And there are different ways to bring all those together. But what is the capability now, and how do you bring that together? And then finally, you got to build for continuous change. How do you architect your platform so that as things come and go, you're not, running to the next platform architecture, but rather you're just tuning your platform for the change to come. So we've already added some of the AI related components, if you will, the intelligent application components into our platform, our data platform. And it's a way we do things, right? We have a playbook where we design a platform, where we evaluate certain things, and then how do we manage it? How do we build it and manage it going forward? But we've added LLM embedding and fine tuning here under data/ML/LLM ops. We've added a vector database as a type of vector that you may want to have in your overall data platform. I'm going to be adding LLM ops here and ML sec ops here as well. I didn't even know that was a word until today, at least ML sec ops. And of course, in the user interface, we have, what are we using for the chat agent, the chat bot, the Slack bot? So of course, this is a high level diagram, but just acknowledge that if you are building a new intelligent platform, you're not necessarily throwing away everything else. A chat bot is just another web application. It has an API. It has a potential database. It does get deployed to a server. There's nothing special. It's just another application, right? It just happens to be talking to a really smart, quote unquote, language model. This is an updated screenshot. I will zoom into this a little later. I added a few chatbots. I added tons of libraries. So this whole section became massive. Tons of stuff in LLM ops related to fine tuning and training. And I'm continuing to kind of wait on this bottom layer of, different vector databases and LLM models, quite honestly, because everybody already knows what they are. Everybody kind of knows what LLM models they're going to use. Pretty much everybody knows which databases they're going to use or which vector database that they're going to use. We'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge. But right now, my focus is to give you guys a decent inventory of no-code open applications, open chat applications, mobile native desktop applications. I also added a whole section about prompt management, prompt engineering, and prompts, like databases of prompts that you can make, where people have already thought out these different scenarios. But I'm focusing on the app layer, the autonomous layer, the frameworks, the libraries, the LLM ops, because that's where enterprises actually need to make decisions. They'll make decisions about a database or an LLM model pretty quickly. But when it comes to then going beyond that layer to building out a framework, their framework with existing frameworks, that's where they need the most help. So just a quick discussion about old ChatGPT, right? Like the first version of ChatGPT didn't have conversations. I think after you paid for it, you got conversations, and I think the free one also has them. They didn't have different GPTs or custom GPTs, but they have them now. Not sure if the free one has it. They didn't have plugins, which use the OpenAPI spec. So you can make a plugin for ChatGPT and add it, but you have to pay for it to be able to get to the plugin ecosystem. And then, you couldn't upload data files, PDFs, images. Like, it didn't have those means. And it didn't have an app. Like, they didn't have an Apple iOS app. You had to put a shortcut on your home screen if you wanted to use it on your mobile phone. But why ChatGPT? Right? It's gotten better, obviously. Well, this is my theory. I think because people use text to communicate with each other. Text, email, Slack, social media. It's just how we communicate with each other. We also, in the work world, have been using chat for a long time, but with things like Slack and Teams, there are specific channels for a certain team that we have, or there's specific conversation we're having with a coworker. Well, now in ChatGPT and these clones, you have this idea of threads or conversations where you can have a thread about a certain topic, and then you can open another thread and you can talk about it. So it kind of mimics that user interface of having these different work streams that you're working on. And it mimics a person. If you're having a conversation with a different person when you talk about a certain topic in ChatGPT and you keep talking, that particular conversation is now getting trained, and it's basically remembering that part of the conversation. It's a different ChatGPT just for you because it remembers what you talked about. And then finally, the overall ecosystem, when you combine it together, the custom GPTs that you can make your custom GPT, you can publish it, and it has certain instructions that people can't see, although there's a way to jailbreak that. There are plugins that other people have made, like can read a YouTube video's transcript and summarize it for you. And you combine all that into a thread. These work threads, especially if you're working with ChatGPT, I use it for a lot of different things. It becomes valuable enough for me to pay for it. But at some point, everybody on the team wants it. And, I think that, yeah, we could afford the $20 a user per month. And maybe we could use the team features, which are $25 a month. But we decided to experiment and see if some of these open source tools would actually work out for us. And it turns out that they do. And maybe we'll evaluate a few more and keep learning about these tools and how we could use them so that we can share it with you. But last year, when we say March, April timeframe, I started to work on a UI chatbot clone UI using our own API powered by LangChain and powered by Llama Index, and to put it out there as an open source project. And thankfully, I got distracted by doing the boot camp and actually working on really exciting research and development we did with our partners to help integrate certain vector databases into the ecosystem. Because by the time I looked up, there were a few of them out there, and they were pretty good. So if you wait long enough in open source, somebody's going to come up with something, and you can just borrow it. What is a chatbot? So user, I'm just making this up. Right? I think the best way to get people to get on top of this bandwagon is to get people to be on the same page in terms of what words are. Let's define what a chatbot. So a user interface allowing users to interface with one or many intelligent processes. And that could be a large language model. It could be an agent that is able to talk to different things and be autonomous in a certain way. Or it could be a swarm of bots. And I'm saying this as an AI chatbot, right?
Hey, Raul, can I add just a bit of context here for something else we can do in this scenario? So when he talks about agents, there's a huge amount of flexibility here. And I think one of the most interesting things that I've learned in the last couple months is the ability to sort of exploit what actual programs are good at versus what LLMs are good at. So LLMs notoriously bad at math. Programs, great at math. So you can set up an LLM to recognize when it should be sending something to a program versus trying to handle the response in its typical LLM fashion.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great, yeah, I think when we get into the agents and frameworks, there's so much to unpack there. The other AI chatbot definition is basically an intelligent agent connected to an existing chat application, like Slack or Discord or WhatsApp, where the users are really just using it as if they were talking to another person anyways. If you've been on Discord, a lot of Discords will have bots in general. Now you can talk to OpenAI, ChatGPT inside Discord. You can say, at ChatGPT, please, I have this question, and they will just answer it in the same conversation. And you can have threads with different people. So two different things. And today I'm going to focus on the user interfaces that are new, that you would deploy to a website or into a mobile application. But the same APIs can be used to create these connected chat bots with Slack and Discord. So as I mentioned, I've added a few tools to the category of open chat applications. And I'm going to step out of the presentation to do this architecture, this breaking out an architecture in a FigJam. But just to cover, what are the components of a ChatGPT clone, right? And the UI, again, could be a chatbot, it could be a Slack bot. We're going to focus on the chatbot. It's a UI, it's a web-based interface or a mobile application, and it's likely talking to an API. And that API could be actually what I meant to put here was could be an open AI API. It could be LangChain backed API. It could be a LLM index backed API. It could be a combination of these. It could be a combination of using OpenAI and Gemini and LangChain and you name it. We did some of this stuff last year in the bootcamp. You can catch up on YouTube. And then if you did wanted to answer questions from your data, there are these vector databases that basically give the LLM framework, like LangChain, the ability to take your question, find relevant data from other databases, and bring them back to you. And unless you were doing a text to SQL against the database, basically you have to prepare your vector databases using some sort of ingestion process in the background. Oops. And actually, with adding here, another framework we work with, Haystack. So this is just a high-level breakdown of a custom enterprise chat application. Let's take a look at an existing chat application, and let's take a look at an open source chat application. Right? So break this up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up ChatGPT, and I'm going to then bring up LibreChat, and then I'm going to bring up DocsGPT. So I've got my handy ChatGPT actually inside a dedicated browser window. You know how you can make a shortcut on your desktop. So I don't even go to the browser. I just have a little shortcut, right? And what I'm showing here is my paid ChatGPT subscription. And I can make a new chat with ChatGPT, or I can make a new chat with my brand bot, custom GPT. It's not mine, it's somebody else's. Or my prompt professor, who helps me be a better prompt engineer. And you can see there's some conversations from a long time. I mean, I've been using it since December 2022. So I deleted a bunch of stuff that I didn't need, but I go and, after starting a conversation, I go and rename it so I can quickly find it if it's, right there. And I wish they had a search in here. I think they do. And you can now add a team member to a team workspace, which I don't use yet. I'm gonna have to look at it, but this interface right here is what a lot of the open source ChatGPT clones look like. And you see this right here because I have another plugin to my browser called Web ChatGPT. I think that's what it's called, Web ChatGPT, which basically gives it access to a library of prompts that it could use for me. And I can turn on web access where it can either do a search or it can go through do exhaustive searches. And I've got, basically sign in for that. I'm not signed in on here. And you can tune it. You can say, I want to use Google search. So this is a plugin you can add to ChatGPT, and it's pretty good. And before ChatGPT 4 and internet access, this was a thing. You kind of wanted to have this. And what are these one-click prompts? Well, they're kind of like the old version of the custom GPTs that you could have now, right? The custom GPTs are tuned in the sense that they're defined with a system prompt to say, you're a brand bot, you know everything about marketing, and you can, when you make a custom, GPT, you can upload files that it can talk to, or you can even say, here are APIs that you can talk to, meaning other plugins that you can talk to. So your custom GPT could talk to your files, it could talk to your database, and you can be completely happy with that. But you don't know where your data is going. You trust that OpenAI is taking care of this for you. And if you have to have any privacy compliance, if you were to send personal information or health information, then you probably can't use this, right? If you have to do financial information, you can't use OpenAI. You'd be violating some regulation in your industry when you do that. So it's a no-brainer. If you're working in finance, health, legal, it is, at the end of the day, not viable for you. Number one reason why you have to look at a different option. The next, two tools I'm going to show are, let's see. Yeah, so this is just a chat interface that looks like ChatGPT, but it's not. Sorry, I'm going to show that again. Should be able to just show. Okay. Anyways, I think I just have to share the whole screen. It's fine. We'll manage. Yeah. So this is Libra Chat, and we've deployed it. And what I'm able to do here, I can't do in ChatGPT. I can configure it to use Google, Gemini, Bing. I can use other plugins, OpenAI plugins, right? If I know the URL, I can use Anthropic. And right now I don't have any plugins configured, so I can't really use it. But you can install plugins that are available, and these are OpenAI, plugins that other people have made, and you can use them inside this Libra Chat, open source, right? That's kind of cool. You can choose different models. You can tune it. Again, you probably don't need to mess with this stuff, but this is the easiest way to kind of make your own custom GPT right now. And then reuse these settings, like you can put a system prompt and you can reuse it. And later, I think this platform is going to have a different iteration of this where you can upload files or give it abilities like you can give it in GPT right now. And the interface when you start a new conversation, obviously I don't have web chat GPT here. I can't really use that, but I'll give you kind of like an example of I've been using it to do some system analysis and requirements design, and it's pretty good. It takes my prompt, which is a very structured prompt, and it used ChatGPT 4 to create this requirements and design and architecture for a full application. It did all of this for me in a private playground, basically, and it can do code generation. It can do anything basically that I would have needed to do in ChatGPT. And this is something that we've shared with the whole company, right? I can upload PDFs and I can upload images because ChatGPT, the Model 4 has the ability to, read images and files and everything, right? So it basically does what ChatGPT does. It's not free, because you got to host it somewhere and you have to have a database that you run, and you have to pay for the tokens. What we've seen is that the amount of tokens that our team uses collectively in a month is still lesser than what we would be paying for $25 a month for our team. So already it's kind of cheaper and it works. It's not ChatGPT, but we're happy with it. Another tool that we're bringing up is Docs GPT. I think there's something, there's a deployment issue with this, but Docs GPT is, again, very similar to ChatGPT, where you can upload a document and you can talk to your documents. You can have different chats with different documents, and it's, again, 100% open source. I don't think there's a database behind the scenes, but it does use FAISS, which is a vector library that does an in-memory vector database to basically make it easy for your chatbot to talk to data, to talk to unstructured data. And it uses LangChain as the middleware, basically, between you, your data, and the GPT model. So two completely different open source applications. This one does not have multi-user. It does not allow you to share keys. If I get this up and running, anybody that has access to this URL will be able to look at this and mess with it, right? Versus this, if I log out, right, I can just show you the settings here. I can log out of here, and unless you have a login, you can't really get to this, right? So just two applications, but there are many, and let me share a different screen to walk you through a few more. Let's see.
Hey, Raul, I'm seeing a little bit of, I'm not seeing your screen share correctly this time.
Just about, you're not seeing it? Let me try sharing it again.
Yeah.
How about now?
That is working now.
All right, so let's take a look at the overall toolkit, right? So we've brought up LibreChat and DocsGPT, right? There are other tools out there that might fit your need. Here's one called Chatbot UI. It is just a toolkit, actually, that if you wanted to see what it looks like, it's similar to LibreChat, but it's really just talking to the models, and you can set up some prompts that you can reuse. It's pretty useful. I don't think it has multi-tenant. I don't think you can have multiple users. DAnswer, sorry, the screenshot looks kind of weird. Their claim is that it's kind of built in with search, and it's like a knowledge base that you can add different types of data and connect it to like Google Drive, and get this. And I think it does have multiple users. Just a little bit. OpenChat is it's really another iteration of a this is slightly different user interface, and maybe it's something that you're interested in as from a different interface perspective, but it's basically the same thing. Some of these, and I can't go through all of them, obviously. Some of these are platforms that are folks have just been messing around with it and put it out there. I think the code is pretty good. Some of them have become pretty popular. Like this one is about 2,000 forks. It's based in Chinese, but it's got a lot of great features when I was using it that I think now LibreChat has, but they have really good mobile support. Private GPT is another kind of DocsGPT type situation. This LoChat is interesting because it has its own ecosystem for plugins. They start calling them agents. Microsoft has open sourced their chatbot clone. If you wanted to use their look and feel, you can do that. And the rest of the ones that are here, they all have some specific feature that makes it special, right? So, for example, the Ollama Web UI uses an OpenLLM, and it actually uses the chatbot UI that I showed you earlier. So it's a combination of an OpenLLM plus that particular toolkit. Other ones, it's like a misnomer. Like it says it's an AGI. I don't really think it's an AGI, but it's just a chatbot with image generation and some stuff already built into it. What I find is that most of them are kind of in these one of three categories. One is they're just trying to copy ChatGPT. Another is they're trying to go a step beyond and add other data sources, like left-on search or DAnswer, where you add your data and you can talk to it from different places, not just uploading a file. And then there are others that kind of go out into their own situation and their own design, trying to innovate on the general chatbot UI. And it's up to you. So it's a subjective decision whether you think it's better or worse. This one, for example, is LangChain's LangGizmo, but it's really just the OpenGPTs. They have a version of OpenGPTs that can be done using LangChain, and you can see you can configure GPT-4 or Claude, etc. Well, technically, you can do that in LibreChat. You can make a new preset using Claude, or you can make a new preset using OpenAI, and do whatever you want. So I'm going to zoom out, right? And we're going to take that general, block that I had shown, that we need a UI, right? I'm going to make an architecture of a chat application really quickly. And it's blue here. And we're going to have a API layer. You know what? I'm going to do this up here, do it vertically. And the API is likely going to be talking to some data, right? And there's another process. You know what? I'm just going to put this together here. just call it the ingestion process. Ingestion just means it's ingesting your information if you decide you need to do that. And the UI kind of sits on top of this. Primarily, it's talking to your API layer. So actually, maybe I should have done it vertically. Sorry, horizontally. Yeah, I think I can manage with this kind of setup. So in the UI layer, this is where you may have a need for a web chatbot, like the ones I've shown. Right? You may need to have a Slack bot. Maybe you need to have a mobile app. Right? And all of these things are basically going to be talking to your layer below, which is your API layer, right? So in your API layer, sometimes you can just use public LLMs. Public LLM, I mean like OpenAI, Google, things like that. You can use private LLMs. Again, you can use OpenAI privately on Azure, or you can use open LLMs hosted by other people, or you can have private open LLMs. And maybe I should say private, I don't know, it's like privately hosted public LLMs. And then privately hosted open LLMs. And then here are basically public open LLMs and public closed LLMs. So there we go. So what I've done here is kind of show the landscape of if you are doing this endeavor of building out a custom chatbot, and you do want to use some of these open source ones out there, you still have to think about, well, what am I going to use in terms of the LLM model, right? Is it going to be Azure? So like here, I'll say it's OpenAI. It's too big. You can do Claude or Anthropic. And you can even have, I think, a private version of that. There are other ones in this space here. There's always new ones coming. And then you can have open LLMs like Olama that allow you to run different ones. And if you want to go more specific, it's like, running the Alpaca or Vicuna models, or Mistral is another one. And of course, you can do these on different hosting companies that are basically optimized for running LLMs that are open. They just charge you an hourly rate or like a per transaction, just like these other ones. But it's the only distinction is that it's open, so it's cheaper, I guess. And then of course you could pay for hosting on GPUs for these open models. So that's the first hurdle. You gotta, after you kind of know what you want for the user interface, then you need to figure out what models you're going to use. And you're likely not going to just, use just these by themselves. Depending on which clone you use, a lot of them have other frameworks that they use to make their job easier, to talk to not only LLMs, but also talk to other APIs, right? So we'll just say that there is a layer of LLM framework, right? And so we saw in DocsGPT, for example, it uses LangChain, right? And it also uses a library called FAISS. This is your custom libraries that you may use. Or even if you don't know you're using it, that project is using it. So you need to be aware, if you're using an open source project, what other dependencies does it have? And these frameworks have their own plugins and tools and dependencies. Another one is Llama Index, for example, right here. And then there is semkernel. So most folks, you'll figure out what you need here. You'll use an existing system. Maybe you don't really need your own data, but for the most part, this right here does not, it's not any different than what I showed you with LibreChat. In that there's no special data in there. There's no, I didn't necessarily have a knowledge base of our company's information, not yet, where my colleagues and I can talk to. And if I did want that, then I need to have some sort of an infrastructure for that data to be available to me. And that is where we have things like databases. You may have search indexes, and you may have, data lakes / warehouses, and then recent addition vector databases. They're not all mutually exclusive. There are some databases now have vector databases. There are some databases that have search. There are search indexes that now have vector databases. Some vector databases that now have search indexes. So this is, again, it's a whole different layer in the toolkit that we'll get to. And finally, in the ingestion, similar to the API layer, you're likely going to use the same LLM frameworks to do the ingestion. In fact, if you don't do that, you probably won't be able to retrieve it. So, for example, DocsGPT, it uses LangChain with FAISS, which has an in-memory database, right? But when you upload a document, it's basically using LangChain to use this library to save it in FAISS. If we decided to use, let's say, Astra, right, with LangChain, then that would talk to Astra if the data was there. And if I uploaded data or if I ingested data with LangChain into Astra, I would be able to use it. So it's kind of how things are connected. And I'll just put here DocsGPT, right? And then you have LibreChat. And these, at least I know for a fact, DocsGPT uses, in our case, OpenAI. And if I can do it the way I need it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the frameworks up here and the libraries up here, because they're technically above the LLMs. And then you got your LLM framework here. Yeah, so something like LangChain or all of these really, they work with these different LLMs, and I'm just going to group these together, and I'm just going to call it LM. And for all intents and purposes, unless you're going down the route of fine-tuning your own LLM or small language model, you don't need to worry about the details of how to host it. You can just use somebody else's. Even if you wanted to do privately hosted OpenLLMs through Azure or AWS Bedrock, they've made it so easy that you just say, I want this, and they'll put out an API, and these frameworks know how to talk to them, right? So this is a simple architecture. And you may say, how's it simple? There's so many things going on here. Well, that's the part about open source, is that you get to see everything. You get to decide what you want in the UI, the API, the data layer. I didn't even put in here, where you're going to host it. But having this big picture allows you to make decisions if you need to make the decisions. Or having this big picture allows you to ask yourself, do I really need all this stuff, right? I'm going to pause for a second and see if there are any questions.
Yeah, Rahul, I did have one.
Yeah.
So I was wondering about the sort of data section down here.
Yeah.
There were sort of two areas that I thought, one of them you addressed. You said, unless you're going to do fine tuning, you don't really need to have more than this. But if you were, there would sort of be a fine tuning or an instruction set or whatever data you're fine tuning on. There would be a like example data section in here.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, if you wanted to do your own fine-tuned LLM, which is, again, this is another subset, and I'll make space for it by consolidating some of this white space here. Right, so let's say, yeah, here we go. Right, and so we're now talking about privately hosted, open, fine-tuned LLMs, right?
The creme de la creme.
Yeah. So usually you're going to go in that you're going to use public ones. You're going to be okay with it. Maybe you'll go and use the privately hosted closed ones. Maybe you'll be okay with it. Maybe you'll go here. But yeah, finally, if you're like super sensitive in terms of regulation and where things can be done, you may need to do this on your own hardware. To do this, you can take an off-the-shelf open model, which are basically fine-tuned versions of Facebook's model, most of them. There is another one. Forget what the source is, but the most popular ones are the ones based on Llama 2. And the way they trained those was they had OpenAI make 50,000 questions and answers that were good, because OpenAI is pretty smart, ChatGPT is pretty smart, and they used it to fine-tune their model to get it to be like 80% as good as ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT-4, until recently, was the top of the game. Apparently, Gemini is like really close and kind of beating it a little bit. But if you wanted to take one of these open models and get it to be more knowledgeable about your knowledge set, you can do that, but you need to have your own data, right? You're going to have your own source data, but then that data needs to be converted into and I'm just going to put this here as fine-tuning instruction data set. Right? And to create this, there's massaging of information to get it to be in this format, and then you can train it. So what I would say is that I wouldn't even put this here. I would say, you know what, it would be down here. So we'll say fine tuning in general. Right, so you're going to have your data. You're going to have your fine tuning process that takes data from here and makes your fine tuning instruction data set. So I'll say these are your fine tuning instruction extraction process. Is that I think that's correct, right?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. And then you basically, have your data set that comes out. And then you can fine tune it at the very end.
Yeah, so that's like the post fine-tuning model, basically.
Yeah. So let's say you had a bunch of data and you were using it to inform your chatbots. You could extract it, go through this process, get it to be in this instruction data set, and then your fine-tuning process would take it and get it to be in your open model here. And so now your open model is baked in with your knowledge. And if you're not aware, and I'll kind of finish up with explaining like, how is this different than talking to your database? How is RAG, retrieval augmented generation, different than fine tuning? I think that's a deep topic, but I'm going to start wrapping up. Just wanted you guys to get an idea of what a chatbot architecture looks like and what kind of decisions you need to make. And let's see where my presentation is. Okay. So main takeaways, most users are okay with chat. You can give them chat. They'll be happy. They'll be fine. You don't need necessarily image, audio, video. Most of the time, people just want to give text to the LLM and get it back, right? Summarize this document. Take this 90-page email that somebody gave and make them into bullet points so that I don't have to read the whole email. Do you need RAG, retrieval augmented generative AI, which is your app is talking to your data, and you don't necessarily need to fine tune. You don't necessarily need anything special. You can just use the out of the box OpenAI. Most of the time, you can get by with RAG with your information. And that's basically what DocsGPT does. When you upload a PDF, it makes it into a vector database so that when you ask a question against it, it finds relevant chunks of that data, and then it uses it to get an answer from the AI. That's what RAG is. We covered it in the virtual bootcamp before, and there's billions of videos about what RAG is. Do you need anything special beyond OpenAI that's publicly available? Do you need a private instance of OpenAI? Do you need an open LLM? Do you need a privately hosted open LLM? These are questions that are kind of after you've decided what you want to make, right? And you may not necessarily know what you need from a chat application until people are using ChatGPT. They're using Bard and they're saying, you know what? I can't send this data here. Can we come up with a ChatGPT clone to basically use our data? Or can we connect it to our data warehouse so I can ask questions against it, right? So people need to know how to use ChatGPT to give you that feedback. And that's the approach we're taking. We just put it out there, let people use ChatGPT, let people use our private Libra chat, and we started to get them to think about prompts, reusable prompts. Because eventually, if many people are doing the same thing, then that's an opportunity to take those prompts and make them into custom GPTs or agents that can do a process in a sequential way. And I know we just did this like high level down to some architecture, which is maybe a little bit too technical for most folks. But when you really get down to the nitty-gritties of creating an agent, you can make agents that can take a 15-step process that a person does and have it do that successfully, repeated without any error. Or you can have an agent that thinks about what it needs to do and figures out what tasks it needs to do, and then it goes executes them, and then it gets back data, right? So all of that stuff, pretty much most people are interacting with a chatbot. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? This is just how you interact with an intelligent process. How good your intelligent process is, that's up to you for you to craft, right? So that's it for today. Were there any last questions before we wrapped it up?
Oh, I feel like I could ask you 20 more questions about this, but I think we can stop here.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Appreciate it. And we'll see you maybe next week or in 2 weeks. Thanks again. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.